Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is the classic holiday turkey. Well, today we're going to be preparing a whole turkey that's perfect for a holiday meal in a very classic style. We're keeping the bird whole this time. Even though we love to spatchcock our birds, sometimes you just want to go the easy route, and we're going to show you how to do that today. So we're starting with roughly 14-pound turkey here. This is right in that sweet spot of that like 12 to 15 pounds that I really like to cook. Luckily with this process, there's really nothing to do on the front end of this, except for maybe getting underneath that skin just a little bit to loosen that so that we can kind of let our brine work its way into the meat. So just kind of pulling that skin off of the breast meat to really get that extra penetration from the brine, because we are going to be soaking this in a wet brine overnight. So brining your turkey is a great way to add a lot of extra moisture and flavor to the turkey itself. Today we're going to be using the Sweetwater Spice Classic Holiday Brine Base. Now this is a concentrate. It's got apple juice in it, a lot of great holiday flavors like sage, rosemary, some citrus. So while even a basic brine of just water, salt, and sugar can help add a lot of moisture to your turkey, adding all these extra flavors in just takes it that extra mile. So we're going to use 2 bottles of our concentrate here, and then we'll dilute it with some water. I don't want to miss out on any of the goodness in this bottle, so we're going to take some of our water for our diluting and rinse that bottle out. So we're going to do 2 gallons of water for our 2 bottles of concentrate. We're also going to add a cup of kosher salt. So we're going to give this a good whisk just to start to dissolve that salt, and then this is ready for the bird. All right, so turkey's going in the brine. I'm gonna get this thing fully submerged and locked into place. Slide our plate in, and that'll keep it completely submerged while we brine. Now I'm gonna let this whole bird brine for about an hour and a half per pound. So 14 to 15 pounds, we're talking about 21, 22 hours. We'll throw it in the fridge overnight, pull it out tomorrow. So our turkey's ready to come out of the brine. What we're gonna do is get it out of there onto a drying rack and pat it dry so we can get that skin drying off. And then we're gonna let this thing sit open, uncovered in the refrigerator for about 24 hours to really let that skin dry out. Boy, you can smell all those traditional flavors that are coming out of that brine. It's gonna add a ton of great flavor to it. So we're taking this step in the process to make sure that we really dry this skin out, because the drier we can get the skin, the better cook we can get on it. We can really render out that fat and get more of a bite through skin with a little bit of crust on it, rather than something that's soggy and chewy. So we don't wanna truss this up at all. We want to leave it open. We want the air to be able to move underneath it, which is why it's on a rack. So we're going to leave this just like this, stick it in the fridge for about 24 hours. So this bird has now been drying out for 24 hours in the refrigerator, just sitting open, so that we can really get the texture we want on the cook of the skin here. And you can see how it's kind of tacked up and it's shrunk up a bit. That's what we're looking for. Now we need to get this thing seasoned up and trussed so it'll cook evenly. But before we do that, we're gonna inject some butter into the white meat. So this is just straight butter that we're going to inject into the white meat. And that's really just to help that white meat be really tender and moist, and just to give it a little bit of that extra fatty feel to it. So the way we're gonna do this is get into this breast, kind of poke around a little bit. We'll pump 1 or 2 pumps in there. I'm just gonna seal it off just for a second. This butter's gonna start to cool down. And we don't want it to all come right back out. Some of it is going to, and that's fine because most of it's gonna stay in there. Now remember, we've already brined this bird, so we've already added quite a bit of moisture. So we're really just hedging our bets here to make sure that we get the most flavorful, juicy turkey possible. So this is taking on about as much butter as it's going to. When you start to see it coming back out, that tells you you're done injecting. I'm just gonna rub some of this excess butter across the surface. 1, to help the seasoning stick, and 2, to help with some browning. As we think about the overall flavor profile of this bird, we're starting with this base of flavors that we associate with the holidays, the apple juice, the sage, the rosemary. So we want something that's gonna complement that without overpowering it. Now, obviously we need some salt, right? But from there, I wanna build on the savory flavors, some onion, garlic, maybe a little bit more herb to really pump up that herb flavor. So what we're going with today is a brand new seasoning from Cattleman's Grill called Trail Dust. This is something I've developed with Cattleman's over the last several months. And as we've developed this rub, we've had in mind all along, this is something you wanna be able to put on any and everything. So while we're putting it on turkey today, tomorrow it might be brisket, your veggies, your fish, your whatever. It's an all-around seasoning salt, but with some real texture to it. So we've got to do part of the seasoning process before we truss, and then we'll do part of it after as well. We want to make sure that we get in these nooks and crannies so they don't get forgotten once we truss this bird up. So we're going to take our butcher's twine. We get a few feet pulled out here, 4 feet or so. I'm going to start roughly in the middle and bring our legs together. And we're going to go around those a couple of times here. And then we are going to head in opposite directions. So pull those together. One's going over the breast, one's going down the back. We meet right here in the top. Pull everything together. Bring those wings in. Flip it over. And put that right along the backbone, and we'll tie it together here on the underside. All right, so that's kind of all compact so that we can really get this to cook evenly. So now that we've got that trussed up and we've got the nooks and crannies seasoned, we're gonna hit the rest of the skin with our trail dust. So you can see some of that texture we're talking about. That's going to give us a really nice bit of crunch to the outside. Get this right on top and we'll call it good. So our bird's going to go back onto our rack, which is where we're going to be cooking this. So today we're cooking on the Yoder Smoker's YS640S pellet grill. We're starting out really hot, 450 degrees. We want to get a nice bit of crisp going to the skin before we turn it down and finish this thing out at 325 for the remainder of the cook. So we're going to go 45 minutes on this initial high temperature. I'm going to get a probe in there just so we can monitor that internal temperature through the Fireboard app. We want to go to about the deepest part of that breast meat. We're going to add a little bit of water to our pan here. And you can see what we're doing is we're creating an even more indirect cooking zone so we don't get any radiant heat coming off of that plate that's going to scorch on the pan or on the turkey. The water's going to soak all of that up. All right, so we're just about ready to turn the grill down from our initial high temp roast. We're going to make a little glaze here that we can start to paint our bird with before we do that. So I've had this cast iron skillet preheating inside the grill. We're gonna start with a half cup of butter. We're gonna add to that a 1/4 cup of wildflower honey. So this is going to help darken up the skin between the fat and the sugar. Give us a nice shine as well. Then we've got about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of Worcestershire. I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic, crush that down, and just throw it in. And then I've got about a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. So we'll just throw this back on the grill to warm everything up and bring it together. Now looking at our bird, we're getting some nice browning happening here in the first 45 to 60 minutes. You want to look for those edges to start to brown up. That's that initial crisp that we need. So let's take this down to 325 now. We're gonna finish out our cook at this lower roasting temperature, occasionally basting our glaze over the bird. All right, so this has just been simmering away in here. We're gonna go ahead and give the entire bird a good baste right now. and then we'll check back in about 45 minutes and do this all over again. Really just kind of dabbing this on because I don't want to lose all of my seasoning. All right, so we'll close it up. We'll check back in about 45. I'm just gonna leave my skillet right up here so that stays nice and warm. All right, well, it's been another 45 minutes. That color's coming along nicely. We're at about 115 on the internal temperature. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this another little bit of our glaze. Continue to brush this on and kind of add to that shine and to that browning power. We are 4 hours into the cook on our turkey and it's come up to temp. 155 degrees in the breast, that's our target. I've been basting it every 45 minutes or so, so it's looking really nice. So we've got great color on the skin. There in the deepest part of the breast is where we're temping at 155. We're ready to pull this off. That candy on the outside. We've given our turkey a good 30 minutes to rest, which allows all those juices to kind of redistribute. Everything relaxes, we're ready to slice into it. So let's start by getting rid of our twine here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove the leg here so we can carve into the breast. We'll just follow this down. Oh my goodness, the juice in there. That looks just incredible. Super juicy. Let's take this leg off here. Go right in between the knuckles there. Get down in here and carve off that thigh as well. And man, that is just as juicy as a thigh should be. You gotta get right on the other side of that knuckle to release it. And this is all meat that typically you're gonna pull for that dark meat pile anyway. But just look how juicy inside of there, fully cooked. That's exactly what we're going for. I'm gonna go ahead and get this wing out of the way as well so we can get some slices off this breast. And this is great if you want to carve right at the table. You've opened up the side of that bird, got rid of that wishbone, so we can just start carving off slices here. And boy, look how juicy that is. Plenty of moisture coming out of that breast meat still. Beautiful. All right, let's take a little taste here. Now, this is just the inside, no skin on it. Man, that is juicy. And you even pick up on that brine. It's able to penetrate into the meat. Now the skin itself got a touch of sweetness from that glaze we put on there. It's rendered down really nice. It's not chewy. Very juicy. Lots of that herb flavor coming through from the brine. And I'm stoked about that because as much as I love this trail dust seasoning, I want to taste all of it. I don't want to just taste the seasoning. I want to taste the brine on there as well. And it's all coming through. Yeah, how about some of that dark meat as well? Well, that's where it's at. For me, the texture of that thigh meat is just like velvet. It's just melting in your mouth. Getting all those flavors coming through from the brine, from the rub, just a little sweetness from the glaze. It's just the right touch. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com or just click the link in the video description to check out the full turkey kit. We can get you the flavors, we can get you the tools, whatever you need to make your Thanksgiving dinner happen. If you enjoyed the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All Things Barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.